When it comes to masculinity, there are a great deal of myths and misunderstandings floating about in the world. There is a widespread belief that in order to be deemed manly, one must behave in a particular manner and adhere to a set of predetermined criteria. On the other hand, this is not at all the case for Sigma males. It is essential that you are aware of the many factors that might undermine your masculinity because there are many of them. Therefore, if you want to keep your masculinity, you need be sure to avoid falling into any of these 8 traps. Number 1. Having concern about the opinions of others. It's possible that worrying what other people think of you is one of the worst blunders you may make in your life. You shouldn't let the opinions of other people determine how you behave or who you are as a man. Instead, you should have self-confidence in both your talents and in yourself. Keep in mind that you can't make everyone happy, so there's no use in wasting your time trying. Your inner strength is the source of your masculinity. It is not dependent on the amount of external affirmation or praise you receive. You shouldn't let the opinions of other people bring down your sense of who you are. This not only makes you less manly, but it also steals your joy and lowers your opinion of yourself as a person. It might be especially difficult to maintain your self-assurance in today's culture, in which everyone is continuously inundated with messages and pictures depicting how they should appear. However, you do not have to comply to these standards in order to remain confident. Instead, you should concentrate on building your own personal sense of style and personality in a way that allows you to feel at ease and confident in yourself. It is one of the worst things you can do to your masculinity to let go of your sense of self, and you need to find methods to stay loyal to who you are. No matter what challenges life presents you with, if you follow this advice, you'll be able to keep your self-assurance and keep your manhood intact. Number 2. Remaining in a relationship that is unhealthy for you. Your sense of masculinity will suffer greatly if you are involved in a relationship that is unhealthy, regardless of whether that connection is with your spouse or with your pals. If you feel as though someone is continuously trying to bring you down, criticizing the decisions you make, or making you feel horrible about yourself, then it is time for you to walk on. Being in a relationship that is unhealthy for you might make you feel like less of a man overall, as well as zap your motivation. As a means of coping with the stress and dissatisfaction, it can also lead to behaviors that are damaging to the individual. But if you educate yourself on the characteristics of unhealthy relationships, you will be able to steer clear of situations like these entirely. Feeling continually sad or down, having frequent disputes, feeling ignored or taken for granted, not being able to be yourself around your partner, and not being able to be yourself around your partner are some of the primary symptoms that it is time to terminate a relationship. If you are in a relationship that is unhealthy for you, you need to discover methods to get out of it and start fresh. This will not only assist you in preserving your manhood, but it will also provide you with the opportunity to experience joy and contentment in other aspects of your life. You need to make it a priority to improve the quality of the people in your life so that you may surround yourself with those who will lift you up and cheer you on rather than bring you down. This does not imply that you have to cut yourself off totally from the. On the other hand, this does imply that you need to be selective about the people you accept into your life and often assess how the connections in your life are influencing you. If something doesn't seem right or other people are making you feel badly about yourself, it's time to reassess the connections in your life and decide if you want to work on making them better or whether it's time to move on. You'll be able to keep your self-assurance and be loyal to who you are if you take charge of your relationships and cut ties with those that are unhealthy. Number 3. Squandering the limited amount of time you have. Although time is one of the most valuable commodities we possess, it is surprisingly simple to throw away. Common time wasters, such as scrolling through social media or watching television for extended periods of time, are something that a lot of people find themselves doing. This, in turn, unavoidably results in a significant number of missed opportunities for one's own development and improvement. People can't help but be caught into the never-ending news stream on social media, which has been demonstrated to have a bad influence on our mental health. People can't help but get hooked into the never-ending news stream on social media. On the other hand, excessive television viewing has been related to greater rates of both obesity and chronic illness, which suggests that it may be detrimental to our physical health to watch too much television. Not only will this cause a decrease in our energy and productivity, but it also has the potential to severely damage our confidence in ourselves. We don't fully comprehend the repercussions of our acts until it's much too late, by which point a significant amount of time has already been lost. Growing older has a tendency of making us reflect on the many possibilities that passed us by because we were preoccupied with trivial diversions for a greater portion of our lives. The question now is, what can you do so that you don't throw away your valuable time? The most effective tactic is to be deliberate about it and to check that everything you do is in line with the priorities and aspirations that guide your life. This requires you to be conscious of the way in which you are spending money. And having the self-control to avoid things that don't contribute to your growth as a person, whether it be a negative person, social media, or some other type of distraction. Find measures to limit your involvement in these activities that are time wasters. At the same time, you should make sure that you are leaving enough room in your agenda for things that are actually important, such as improving yourself and maintaining meaningful connections with other people. You won't end up squandering your valuable time or resources if you do it this way. And instead, make use of it to bolster your self-assurance and attain larger levels of accomplishment throughout your life. Number 4. Wishing for something rather than working toward achieving it. When we want something, it may be simple to build it up into something bigger than it really is. This is the most prevalent and widespread fallacy that we all make the mistake of falling into from time to time. Sometimes, when we think about the ways in which our lives will be different once we have achieved what we have been striving for, we get the impression that our lives will never be the same again. However, as many of us have discovered the hard way, focusing on what we want rather than what we need to do to get it can actually block us from moving forward and prevent us from accomplishing our objectives. When we want something, our attention is typically directed toward the accomplishment rather than the effort that will be necessary to obtain it. We start to envision all of the challenges that stand in our way or what may possibly go wrong, which leads to feelings of discouragement or being overwhelmed by the situation. Because of this, we end up postponing or avoiding the task at hand, which prevents us from making significant progress toward our objectives. Concentrating on the process, rather than the result, is one strategy that may be used to sidestep this typical pitfall. Take a step back and focus on what you need to do in order to get what it is that you want, rather than ruminating on what it is that you want and how difficult it will be to achieve it. This will assist you in maintaining your motivation and keeping your attention on the task at hand even when things become challenging or difficult along the road. When we allow ourselves to become preoccupied with our thoughts and emotions, it frequently inhibits us from doing the actions that are necessary to realize our objectives. We often find ourselves fantasizing about what we want rather than taking the real measures that would actually help us get there, which is why we seldom achieve our goals. We were instructed that if we use the principle of attraction and concentrate on the outcomes we seek, we will eventually get them. But the truth is that using this strategy would only lead to disappointment and dissatisfaction on our part. In order to avoid falling into this trap, it is necessary for us to recognize the significance of effort and labor in the accomplishment of our objectives. Instead of concentrating entirely on what it is that we desire or how we will feel once we get it, we should give our attention to the actions and plans that will bring us closer to achieving our goal. Although the theory behind the law of attraction is intriguing, simply believing in it isn't enough. Therefore, you should not let the hive trick you. Instead, you should concentrate on doing action. If you don't take any steps to make something happen, it won't, regardless of how much you want it or how strongly you believe in the principle that says like attracts like. Number 5. The fundamental focus is on pursuing meaningless connections. When we pursue meaningless connections, we are making an effort to satisfy some unmet need or hole inside ourselves. It's possible that we seek out interactions in the belief that they may alleviate the feelings of isolation or anxiety that we're experiencing. The reality, however, is that these kinds of relationships seldom result in the kind of genuine pleasure and contentment that people want. To set the record straight, there is nothing inherently wrong with the desire to have meaningful connections with other people. In point of fact, maintaining healthy social relationships is an essential part of being a human since it enables us to feel supported and the problem emerges when we seek these connections for the wrong reasons, such as in a frantic attempt to get affirmation or fill some other vacuum inside ourselves. In other words, the problem arises when we pursue these relationships for the wrong reasons. When we pursue meaningless relationships, we unavoidably make sacrifices for our wants and put the interests of others ahead of our own, which can result in sentiments of anger and irritation over the situation. When it comes to love relationships, this can be particularly harmful since we typically make too many sacrifices in an effort to make our partners happy. This has a direct influence on both our confidence and our sense of self-worth, since it causes us to question our capacity to draw in and keep the proper individuals. At some time, we reach a point when we no longer trust our own judgment or instincts, and we may feel as though there is no longer anything in this world for us to accomplish or achieve. You have to put an end to pursuing the wrong individuals, even if they appear to be the solution to the issues you are having. It's like attempting to catch a shooting star. This is impossible. What are your plans for the future if you are successful in catching it? In the long term, it will only result in an increase in the number of issues and dissatisfaction. Instead, put your energy towards bolstering your self-assurance and developing your internal compass. This entails being nice to yourself, creating healthy boundaries with other people, and learn how to trust your gut feelings when it accompany means to making judgments about relationships and other interpersonal matters. Number 6. Accepting an average level of performance. Accepting a level of performance that is below your potential is another strategy that might undermine your self-assurance. This indicates that you are content with being merely ordinary or good enough in all aspects of your life, rather than making it a priority to strive for excellence in all you do. It is not always a negative thing that we live in a culture that is fascinated with the idea of being good enough. We need to acknowledge the constraints that we face and be honest with ourselves about where we are in life. On the other hand, we start to cause damage to ourselves when we allow ourselves to get overly content with only being adequate. It starts to impact our mindset and prevents us from developing into the very best versions of ourselves that we are capable of. In addition to this, it may have a detrimental effect on the connections we have with other individuals. Consider the most recent time you were forced to deal with an unsatisfactory worker or someone whose performance was merely average in their job. It seems like you didn't feel like you got the best experience possible. Does that sound about right? This is the message that we send to others when we accept mediocrity in our own lives. We all want to surround ourselves with the greatest people, and this isn't just because it makes us feel good. We are also at our most best when we are surrounded by individuals who also hold themselves to a high standard. This is why we all want to surround ourselves with the best people. When you start to accept less compensation than you are entitled to, the quality of your job will begin to degrade. Your connections with other people will become strained. And what's even worse, you'll be preventing yourself from attaining your full potential and developing into the person you always intended to be. The question now is, how can you prevent yourself from settling for mediocrity? The first thing you need to do is just become aware of when it occurs. Nevertheless, this is only the beginning. After becoming aware, you should do all in your ability to stop the habit. To do this, you should surround yourself with individuals who are more accomplished than you and who are aware of their own talents. Additionally, make the most of any and all possibilities to get knowledge from them in general. Having the mentality that you want to be the greatest at all you do brings with it a plethora of rewards that are difficult to quantify. Because of this, you will become a more effective employee, spouse, parent, and friend. And who doesn't desire all of those things? It is true that navigating through challenging circumstances might be challenging at times, but in the end, the rewards are well worth the effort. Number 7. Putting mental and emotional boundaries around oneself. One such error that many guys are prone to making is putting emotional boundaries around themselves. We frequently equate being manly with having emotional distance and control, as if we should always strive to be stoic and unemotional no matter what the situation. In point of fact, however, making an effort to stifle our feelings is not only unhealthy but also difficult to do. It is imperative that we become adept at cultivating emotional awareness rather than focusing on controlling or stifling our feelings in any way. This requires an acknowledgement of our sentiments and a tuning into them. Despite the fact that they may be unpleasant or painful, emotional self-awareness is a vital component of both confidence and wellness, and it may assist us in developing our capacity for resilience. One method to develop emotional self-awareness is to talk about our feelings with a friend or write in a diary about them. Therefore, if we want to avoid falling into the trap of emotionally restricting ourselves, the first step we need to do is to work on improving this crucial skill. Either by devoting some time each day to introspection or by actively seeking out new experiences that enable us to better connect with our emotions, we may achieve this goal. We may learn how to accept and express our feelings without feeling judged or ashamed by engaging in these activities, and as a result, we can develop into persons who are more entire and more satisfied with their lives. Number 8. Not believing in your inability to believe in yourself is one of the most damaging things that may happen to your self-confidence. When you don't have faith in yourself, it may have a negative effect on every facet of your life, from the relationships you have with other people to the achievements you have at work. At its most fundamental level, a lack of belief may be summed up as an inability to trust oneself and one's own capabilities. This might be due to a failure in the past, or it could be due to a fear of failing in the future. Perhaps others have always told you that you aren't very good at something. Having a lower self-esteem, regardless of the reason why it happened, can result in feelings of insecurity and the loss of control over one's own life. The question now is, how can you start to believe in yourself once more? The first thing you need to do is start paying attention to the ideas and attitudes running through your head. This indicates that you should be careful of negative self-talk and avoid being caught up in self-doubt or avoid getting swept up in self-doubt. While doing this, you should also look for ways to bolster your confidence and constantly remind yourself of your accomplishments and qualities that set you apart from others. Taking things one step at a time is essential if you want to bolster your self-assurance and strengthen your belief in yourself as you go forward. Keep in mind that the lack of belief you currently possess did not appear overnight, and it will not go overnight either. You can make significant headway in regaining your sense of self-trust and confidence, but it will take some time and work on your part. It is hard to feel good about who you are and what you are capable of doing when you don't trust in yourself or have confidence in your abilities.
Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And do share with your friends so we may continue to create them. To see more videos like this, subscribe and don't forget to turn on the notification bell. Additionally, make sure to check out our other videos. Thank you for watching.